Hi, Ray Dickey from Association Up Now, South Carolina, and Hudson Valley CI. Thank you so much for being here today. This is a pre-recorded session, so I don't think we have anyone from the audience here. That being said, panel, don't say anything that you don't want anyone else to hear. Don't count on me to delete things, Sean. You never know, I could make a mistake. Today's not the day to tell us any big secrets or anything, all right? Today, we are very lucky to have John here, who's going to introduce himself here in a second. We're going to talk about facial recognition. John, this isn't the future. It's here now, right?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And it's getting better every day.
So we're going to get all your questions answered. You can use your question feature. I actually still get those questions even during the pre-recorded session. You just may not get a response for a couple days until I run the report. If you're here for CEUs, you're watching the pre-recorded session, you need to be using the GoToWebinar system. If you're not here for CEUs, you don't need to worry about it. You will be prompted to enter using the question feature CEU, and you have to do that about 3 times, and that way I can let the educational organizations we work with know that you are here. So keep an eye on that, find your question feature, and make sure you're on our GoToWebinar system. Otherwise, you may be watching on YouTube or anything like that, and if you don't need CEUs, that is absolutely cool. I love comments and I love questions. Even though I'm not live, send it. I do check it out, and I do get back to people. Thank you so much. With that being said, I'm going to have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is our great guest, John.
Hi, so my name is John Tanney, and I recently retired after 26 years with the United States Secret Service. And my career spanned everywhere between New York City, Washington, D.C., Honolulu, Hawaii, and you name it. By the time I had retired, I spent the better part of that career in our technical security division and looking at a lot of technical solutions to problems that we were facing. So now I work for a very large company in the corporate world doing domestic security operations. So super happy to be here. Just to point out, whatever I talk about today, I'm not going to give you any secrets. I'm not going to talk about what I really used to do. And none of my views actually are supported by anybody that I used to or currently work for. So this is just me talking to you guys.
Oh, we're going to ask you a lot of top secret questions. No, we're not going to do any of that. I do have, let me get a couple Secret Service questions out of the way, John. The same ones, you know, Tom
Yeah,
he's been on here many, many times. Have you ever wore your sunglasses at night? Because Tom, because you're in the Secret Service, we know it's a thing. Do you wear sunglasses at night still?
Yeah, no, don't do that. It's it gets harder and harder to see, for sure.
You ever saved the pop star and carried her out of a concert and there's music playing in the background? Have you ever saved the pop star in your career?
No, but good reference. But there are lots of good stories with lots of good pop stars, for sure.
Have you ever guarded Whitney Houston?
I have not. I mean,
Like Kevin
another
Costner
good
did?
reference.
No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. Dave, that's what I was talking about. That was
You said wasn't that a different movie? Wasn't that called My
No.
Bodyguard?
John knew which one I was talking about.
I knew where you were going.
And last question, John. And have you ever saved the White House from impending doom? Like you were the only man that could do it. Everyone else was unavailable and only you could do it. And you saved the White House from impending doom. Have you ever done that?
Have not done that, but I came close to ordering baby peas in a grocery store once, if you understand that reference.
No, I don't.
Guarding Tess, great movie. Guarding Tess, great movie.
See, you do know you guys do know all the Secret Service movies. Okay, cool.
I know them all, and I will tell everybody this. If you still want the most accurate Secret Service movie today, In the Line of Fire, Clint Eastwood, 100%.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad it's him too. By the way, Tom did answer that he did wear his sunglasses at dusk, but he denied ever saving a pop star, and he said he did not single-handedly ever save the White House. So you're on par with the Tom results. Okay, let's go to who I see next, and that is Sean.
Good morning. My name is Sean O'Connor. I'm an attorney. I'm a shareholder with the law firm of Clarkson, McAleenis, and O'Connor. Our office is in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We have a statewide community association law practice serving all areas of South Carolina. I'm a longtime member of the South Carolina chapter. I've been a member of the chapter since 2008. Have served as president of the chapter in 2023 and many years on the board. serve on the Blue Ribbon panel for the South Carolina CAI, and I'm also a member of the CAI National Business Partners Council, and I'm a CCAL.
Anything else?
That'll cover it for now.
Okay, thank you. Greg.
That's hard to follow, right? I don't know if I can keep up with Sean here. Greg Girelli with Girelli Insurance Agency. We're located in Cold Spring, New York, and we do insurance master policy programs for community associations throughout the Hudson Valley and surrounding tri-state area. And we're on the board of the local Hudson Valley CAI chapter.
All right. Dave.
Good morning, Dave Byrne from Ansel Law. I'm the chairperson of my law firm's community association practice, and we represent HOAs, condominiums, and cooperatives in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
And let's make sure we leave time, Dave, for you to give us your personal opinion on how you feel about surveillance, because I know you're going to have. I know you're going to have a good one. We'll save that for last.
I hate that, but I do like the fact that I can get into my online banking app just by looking at the phone. I have to say, I do like that.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm surprised you said that, but good for you. Dawn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dawn Becker-Durnan, and I'm a Stearns insurance agent, and I work on behalf of Acrisure. We are a national as well as international retail insurance brokerage, and we provide employee benefits as well as commercial property and casualty, which is the division I specialize in for condos and HOAs.
Okay, so John, it's here. I don't think people realize that facial recognition is already here and it's already being used, and they've already been part of it being used.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, it's actually an older technology. It has been around probably for 15, maybe even 20 years. One of the best facial recognition algorithms that existed started early on. It's called PitPat technology. In 2011, it was sold to Google, but that originated out of the Carnegie Mellon, and it stands for Pittsburgh Pattern Recognition. And so that's been around for a very, very long time. And machine learning, AI, it's all making it a lot better than it used to be.
So it's already in play at some associations I know are already using it. They're mostly expensive high rises and things like that. What are some, well, first, how does it work? I mean, it's kind of an obvious question. We don't want to dive too deep, but basically, how does it work for those that don't have any idea?
Sure. Yeah. Facial recognition, it's a way of using software to determine the similarity between two faces in order to evaluate a claim, right? And so, like you said, it can be used for a variety of different purposes. You can either use it to sign into your phone or search a database, right? So, and there's a lot of, I think, misconception when people think that they know how it works. People think that it actually takes measurements of your face and then it stores it in a database. It's not actually what it's doing. It used to do that. Now it's used with AI, machine learning, deep neural networks. It's actually using your face to create a pixel map of your face, right? Computers think in binary numbers, right? They think of 0 and 1s. They don't see pictures like we do. So they have to convert your picture, your face, into a series of 0s and 1s, and they do that through shading and through pixels. And that's important because when you look at how accurate these systems are, it really depends on the algorithm that you're using and also the camera placement, and that sort of thing.
So I thought I knew how it worked, and I did not. So how does it work then? Does it work with the coloring of your face? Let's say I go in and get a heavy tan, and I don't. I'm so interested. What do the pixels include?
Yeah, so this can get like super complicated, and I don't want to dive too far into the technology. There's some great resources that I can share with people after the fact. But basically, if you've ever gone into a photo and used like Photoshop, right, and you zoom in as far as you can zoom, you see these little squares, right? And so pixels they stand for like pic, right? PIC, and it is the smallest unit that you can get in a digital photograph. And so it will take those pics and it will assign a number to it. So think of the darkest black as a 0 and the whitest white is like 500. Okay? And in a picture, the shades of your face, your eyes, your eyebrows, all of that they all associate a pic to a number. And then it starts to build basically a template of what your face should look like. And then it compares that, it runs a bunch of filters through it, and it compares it to, if you have a database, you know, that template in other databases. So it can get pretty confusing. But like, again, there's some really good resources. It's really interesting. Just when people say, oh, it's just taking measurements between your eyes and your nose and your mouth, it's way more complicated than that.
So I didn't want to like go in this, and if you don't want to answer a question, by all means don't, because you have a responsibility as part of your job not to tell people sometimes that what works it. But what happens if I put makeup all over my face like a clown? I put stripes on my face or something like that. Do you mind answering that question? Would that impact it or would not?
Today, no, it really doesn't. As a matter of fact, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, which is right down the street from me, my kids actually used to go there for preschool, right? So they do these tests, and they've done like years-long tests to validate the algorithms that are basically making facial recognition work. And so it's kind of like a test, right? So they did one in 2017. They're currently doing one in 2024. And so what they found is that things are getting so good that recent tests, like as of 2024, if you had 70% of your face obscured, like some of the best algorithms are still getting 97% true positive rates, which is pretty amazing, right? So that means you could wear a mask, you can wear a hat, you can wear sunglasses. And sunglasses are really interesting. I mean, going back to the theme, right? That you're actually able to open up your iPhone and other things with sunglasses, not because of the algorithm, but because of the technology that's actually built into the phone, and how that translates through your sunglasses. So like I said, it can get really complicated. I just want people to realize it's not as simple as just, you know, taking vector measurements between eyes, nose, and mouth, because with masks, obviously that would be pretty difficult.
Wow. Like I said, I didn't know any of that. So that's pretty exciting. It can work from quite a distance too, right? Like how far away can you be? Does it depend on the camera? Can you give us some idea of that?
Yeah, so it can, but what you're trying to do, right, is when you're looking at accuracy, you're really trying to figure out two things, right? You can have a facial recognition technology that basically is, you want it to allow you in, right, when you're authorized, and you also want to keep people out when they're not authorized. Okay, and your phone kind of does the same thing. So there's a trade-off between the errors that you get when you open up your phone, and sometimes it doesn't recognize you all the time. Maybe it takes 2 or 3. And they built that in because they don't want Joe next door picking up your phone and getting in. So there's a way to kind of tweak those values. But when you talk about camera placement and distances, it all blends into the piece of the puzzle. The most important is the algorithm that's being used. And then second, experts have said camera placement is most important. You want high fidelity cameras, right? A lot of megapixels. We talked about pixels and why that's important. But then it also needs to be placed in a certain way where it is actually picking up a really good photo view. Not to be said, I have seen technology that will get a glancing photo of people. It'll get their side view. It'll get just a little piece of their face, and it's actually matching. But you want to set yourself up for success. So if you have the ability to install cameras and place them in strategic locations, that's what you're going to want to do.
And people like it because it's a convenience at these high rises. Like I said, they're using them all the time. You don't have to get anything out of your pocket. You can basically, it just sees you and it lets you in certain doors or not. I know there's even technology now. I think they're selling it. Maybe Dawn, you've heard of it, where I think they can actually see people in cars driving into associations. Dawn's nodding. Everybody's agreeing. John, that's amazing too, right? Associations some are using it right now where people are driving in with cars and it's picking up who they are. Is that true or false?
Yeah. That's not hard to do. It's not hard to do at all. What I would throw back on you all, because I'm really uncertain as to how it's actually being used in the environment, although you've given me some clues, right? Looks like, or it sounds like you're doing it for access control. So I would be cautious with that. I would also not just want to rely on that. So a lot of times people, and I know somebody doesn't like the privacy implications of this, but they're using that in combination with license plate readers, right? So that you're getting two forms of authentication, or maybe even a key fob or whatnot. And so, yes, that is it's an access control piece. So it really all it's doing is saying yes or no, right? And I think for the viewers, you have to figure out what is your tolerance for either errors on both sides.
So sorry about that. In our industry, they would be using it for access control let's say it's a building, into the building. Maybe you are allowed to have access to the pool. Maybe you're allowed to have access to the gym. Maybe you're on the board of directors and they want to allow you to have access to certain maintenance rooms and things like that. So they would be using that technology fully for access control and tailoring it based on which each person should be allowed, what area they should be allowed to visit and not visit. Does anybody in the panel think I'm forgetting any kind of aspect in our industry that they may be using facial recognition for? Okay. All right. So, before we dive into a couple other deeper parts of this, John, I want to give the panel a chance to ask some questions because a lot of them were really interested. They may not have any. Sean, any technical questions?
All right, now, not yet.
Okay. Anyone have any additional technical questions, or did I cover? Go ahead, Dawn.
I got one.
Oh, Frank, go
I
ahead.
was just curious on, can you fake the facial recognition with either a mask or a computer screen in front of it where it was looking at the same pixels and be able to get you access to something?
So it's a good question. A mask, obviously, yeah. Yes. Well, it depends on what type of mask. If you're talking full face mask, yeah, obviously, right? Because that's not your face. If you're just wearing like a face covering, it had like the algorithm. If you have a good algorithm, it will not even register that. It'll measure off of other elements of your face to get you to what it thinks is a close match. I have seen some things online, and I haven't verified them. Is like when I was a kid, and we would dress up as robbers for Halloween. We put the pantyhose over our face. I've actually seen people printing faces on the pantyhose so that when you put it over your face, you're getting facial structure. You're just changing it. I don't know. I think anything that has a technical component can be faked, although the bar is getting smaller as to what you can get away with.
Are like cameras that are installed generally like ATM cameras or cameras at like, Penn Station in New York? Do they have this kind of technology embedded in them?
So I don't know what Penn Station is using. I don't know what every ATM is using. I will say this. There's two types of when you're looking at facial recognition, right? You're really looking at two use cases. You're looking at verification, which is one-to-one, which I assume maybe is what you guys are doing, right? You have a database or you're trying to match one person to another person. The other one is one to many, which is identification, right? And identification is very harder than one-to-one matching. Think of Penn Station, thousands of people rolling through there. You're looking for, sorry if anyone's named Joe, I just use it generic, Joe or Jane who just committed a crime, right? That is a lot harder because the computational process and algorithms need to be taking that face that you have and comparing it to everything that it sees all the time, super fast, right? That's harder to do than kind of what access control is. Access control is generally very easy because you have a white list, you have people, probably a small white list. So that's easier. The interesting thing with ATMs is that there are some studies, NIST did the study, and they found that ATMs are not very good at facial recognition, or some of their algorithms are really bad because the quality of photo and actually the placement of the photo, because it's not up high, it's low in a lot of cases. And the quality and consistency of the photo when it's taking it is what's really also important.
Hold 1 second, Dawn. Dave, by the way, they're already using it. I think it's in Madison Square Garden. You didn't read any of those stories, I think, where the owner has placed it. Yeah, Greg's nodding his head. Hate to tell you something, Dave. It's already being used out there, and there's been some lawsuits around it. But yeah, I think one of the major, right? Where was it, Greg? You were nodding your head. You know which one I'm talking about?
I think I heard about that at Madison Square Garden. I think you got it right. Yeah.
And
well, yeah, but John's saying it's very difficult to match, to find you know, I don't know, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed walking through the turnstiles in Madison Square Garden, just based on a description that the police may have from a witness that called in an hour ago, right? That kind of thing. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it based on a description, but John, you could do it based on like how quickly is this stuff loaded up? You know, it's got to be really
Yeah.
difficult to identify a random person out of thousands and thousands of people.
Well, so I don't want to misspeak. I don't want to say so identification is harder than verification. That there's a distinction there, right? And so it depends on the quality of the photo that you can get, and you can absolutely do it, right? So I go back to the pick any Bourne movie, right? That you want to reference. And they're running around Europe, right? And they're trying to get through the different countries, and they have their face, and they have it load these digital grainy faces that came from like a fax machine, right? And they have it loaded into their database, and they're like, oh, they were over here, and they were over here, and I used to laugh because I was like, that's no way, like that's not even possible. Now fast forward, 15, 20 years, and if you look at the Boston bomber case, right? That's a little bit different. I believe, I don't know 100% sure, they were using a little bit different technology, but they were still doing the same thing. They were still pattern matching off of faces, right? And so it is, when you're doing identification, the fail-safe is that the computer and the algorithm can give you a clue, a pretty good clue with a confidence rating, but then really a human in the loop needs to go in and say, all right, is this truly this person? I mean, you see that a lot in local police departments. I've been watching a Netflix series called Homicide Squad, based in Louisiana, and they are not making any positive identifications off of any facial recognition systems they have there. They're getting clues. They're actually making positive facial identification off of either people who know the subject, investigators, that sort of thing. So I think there's really this shift to say, hey, like if we're going to use it for identification, we also need a human in the loop to make sure that that's who they say they are, as
Right. It
opposed to
seems like it's
using
a
it for
crutch.
verification.
It's like a total crutch. Like
So-
you watch like a crime show and they're just like, okay, let's just hack the subway cameras and we'll find the guy in 2 seconds.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
So Dawn, you had a question.
I don't know if it was a question, but on the Madison Square Garden, I think it's important, and this is going to parlay into what we're talking about. That lawsuit was about banning individuals from Madison Square Garden. And the technology was used to enforce people who they didn't want to be in the stadium. And because it was private property, the judge did wind up dismissing that lawsuit. It was a class action lawsuit. But I think that's, in our condo and HOA space, a really important factor is, are we now going to use that information to not allow people? And what if there's a mistake? So from an insurance perspective, we talk about this quite a bit because we're funding a lot of that litigation. But I think your audience will probably want to know, in the context of legalities, what can they do? Or if it misidentifies someone incorrectly and now they can't get in, what do we do then?
We're going to get there, Dawn. Don't worry. I think what it is too, John, for our industry, for the most part, they'd be using it. You can't get into the pool. You can't get into it lets you in something compared to not letting you in, right? Most places are going to have a person available to correct that. Just like if my key fob doesn't work here at the building, it doesn't mean I can't get in, right? There's going to be a person also at the front desk. But if I have my key fob, it'll open the door for me more quickly. You had spoken about confidence scores really quick. For people looking to purchase this technology, right, John? And we're going to talk about the legalities, but we could just jump right to this part. They just want it for access control. It's available now, right? It could be purchased now, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And so here's the thing that I would say if you're looking at installing this, right? If you're looking at making the investment, this is no different than what I used to do with the government and looking at technology for investments. First, you need to establish your requirement. What is it that you are trying to do, right? And then you need to go out and, well, a lot of times people will come to you, but then you kind of go shopping, right? And you take that requirement statement and then you compare with what you really need to what that software is offering. And you're going to get a lot of snake oil salesmen. They're going to claim 99% accuracy rates. When people start saying 99% accuracy rates, like that's where you dig in, you dive in, and you start doing your research. You want to know what algorithm are they using? Because a lot of these third-party vendors, they didn't develop their algorithm. Some of these algorithms have been in development for 30 years and they just sell them to, a mom and pop software. So you need to know which one they're using. And once you find that out, then you can really understand how accurate they are. Like I said, NIST did a study. I think they have the top 30 algorithms that they have proven and they've ranked them as is the best one. And so that's what you should be looking for. Some of the software out there, vendors will come in and I've had this done. They'll say, well, we don't even return a match unless it's, we're 70% confident that we have a match. Other vendors will allow you to kind of slide and set those confidence scores to the point where you're more concerned about keeping people out that shouldn't be, kind of like your banking app, or are you more concerned about accidentally not letting somebody in that should be? So there's really a lot that kind of goes into it when you're selecting them.
I think associations could save a bundle with this technology. Obviously, we have to go to the legal and insurance aspects because they're not going to need key fobs. They're not going to, people aren't going to be able to use someone else's key fob to get in and things like that. The technology is going to be there. And it's only going to let people in that are supposed to be in compared to someone else sneaking in. It'll even keep people from piggybacking in theoretically too, right, John? Because that's an issue too. One person used the key fob, they slide in, and then 4 people slide in after them. This will, just like at the TSA, technology will catch those 3 other people piggybacking and probably set an alarm off or something. I mean, that's all here right now, right?
It can, and that goes more, right? That expands like just facial recognition to really artificial intelligent algorithms that are detecting anything. I have seen instances where offices have these algorithms running on their security cameras, and they have picked up fires that are occurring. That somebody walks by an exterior door, and starts a fire, right? And it flags it as arson. I've seen it where you might have a water break from a really cold day, New York, Michigan, wherever, and your sprinkler head pops, and now all of a sudden all that water is flowing into your office space. I've seen where it can alert on that so that you can get people there to clean that up. So it's really moving away from facial. I mean, not moving away, but like adding all of these other elements to it. You can stop piggybacking. Well, not stop it. You can get alerted to it, but the problem with key fobs versus facial recognition is all in the backbone, how they're transmitting that data to your server. So if all of your cameras are running on Wi-Fi, probably not the best because Wi-Fi can be interrupted, as we were talking about earlier. It can be corrupted, signals can go bad. But if you're using hardwire power over Ethernet for your cameras, that's pretty good. The cost of cameras, it was coming down, but with this AI splurge and all of the chips that are like cameras that you need, the high megapixel cameras, that cost is increasing. So it's really kind of trade-off where, your key fob access control is mostly all hardwired in. It's technology that's super mature. And so maybe, if you're looking at a solution, you want some redundancy there.
All right. So at the very end, I want to jump back, John, if you could think about it while we're talking about the insurance and legal stuff, but think about questions that boards should ask. Because I didn't get a chance to talk to you before you came on here. So I think you have an idea of what our industry is looking for in this regard, right? Did we give you enough info on that? So I'm going to jump back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back to you. And what are some questions that a board or a manager or a management company should ask if they're interested in this technology? Who should they call? What should they ask vendors? Should they get referrals? What kind of technology? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. All right, so I'm going to let Dawn go because as everyone knows, Dawn loves insurance. She gets like super excited. And Greg, Dawn loves this whole topic of data, right? She's totally into it. And Dawn's
Very
defense.
interesting.
And Dawn's defense, it's her job, and she sees all the lawsuits and the trouble that come around it. All right, Dawn, I'm going to let you get the ball rolling. And
yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, so my two things when I'm speaking to a board and a management company about information and data is how are you getting it and where are you keeping it or storing it to protect it? the maintenance of documents, I find that there's a huge jump off for a lot of our boards, meaning that I am not seeing a quality control in an administrative function to keep documents and records secure, nor do boards seem to have that transition to understand where those documents were, especially if it's a new management company, new board member. So a lot of our insurance policies, unfortunately, will have exclusions, and Greg and I are going to get into that in a little bit, because the carriers are seeing these lawsuits, they're seeing the payouts, and they're large. So I think the focus that I'd like to see some of our boards and managers do is to prevent the losses from occurring before the insurance gets into the equation.
Greg, this is I think people are finally getting turned on to, cyber insurance and things like that. I think we're finally turning the corner. Are we?
Yes, I mean, more and more boards are paying attention to it. When we start talking about cyber insurance in the proposals, we're understanding it better. There's been more court cases, so there's more examples to go over to explain how things have happened to associations. Facial recognition at the moment isn't one of them. But like Dawn was saying, I come back to the same thing. Where is the data? How is it protected for when you get the accusation from the lawyer that, hey, my facial recognition template was stolen because of the association and was used to go do something bad somewhere else. So we're going to drag you into this lawsuit.
John, I'm surprised Dawn and Greg haven't brought this up, because discrimination lawsuits are the worst lawsuit you can have in our business. They're big losers, big money. That's why I made this slide. Sorry. And heaven forbid that person believes it was targeted or there was some other discrimination kind of factor. I think you touched upon this a little bit, John, but I want to jump back to it. How accurate is this? And I know you're going to save it for the end, but how can boards determine how accurate it's going to be? Because I was surprised you told me it's only 70% accurate. That makes me nervous to a certain extent.
Yeah, so that was it's not that it's 70% accurate. So they did studies back in 2024, I think it's still going on, and they were saying if 70% of your face was obscured, they were still getting 97% like true positive rates. So it is accurate, right? But that's all in the eye of the beholder, right? So you were talking about discrimination lawsuits, which brings up the question about bias. I am not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. However, I do know that, right, within this technology, there's two different things that often get conflated: facial recognition and then facial characterization. They are two separate things. And a lot of times when you hear bias, you're actually talking about facial characterization, which is identifying somebody by their race, sex, color, etc. So the common vernacular in what I'm seeing out there, every report, is that yes, facial recognition can be biased. But when you look at where that bias comes from, because you get the people being like, it's computer, how can it be biased? Like, it isn't. These ones and zeros, like I just said. Well, it does. However, when you start talking about artificial intelligence, neural networks, deep learning, it all depends. Well, not deep learning so much, but it all depends on how, like, the data set that it's reading, right? And it's comparing to. So if you have a data set from an algorithm that was designed in, I don't know, Africa, that is going to look a lot different than one that was designed in Europe. Okay, the good news is that they're understanding that, and that so there is this effort to get as a large a data set as possible to train your model. And that's why I keep going back to, if you're going to pay for a software, make sure they have a very good algorithm that you're probably going to pay for, and then that will actually help you against some of this bias in the accuracy complaints.
Would that be a factor though for just basic access, verification, or is that more get into more of, criminal enforcement type of things?
Sorry, I raised my hand there by accident.
That's right.
Yeah, no, yeah, like I said, it's really for the characterization side, right? When you're where that bias really is a problem. When you're just measuring one-to-one, right? It's verification. It's not really an issue, or at least I haven't seen it come up as an issue applied to that, because you're comparing your face, you're looking for your face in a database that your face has, right? And so it's looking for that, and it's very good at doing that.
Are you, if you're not comfortable, fine, but can you give me an example? Because I'm still, maybe the rest of the panel's getting it. I'm still having a hard time actually understanding it 100%. Can you give me an example of where AI with facial recognition would have a bias compared to not making an error or something?
So I would go outside of kind of the law enforcement intelligence realm and look at it more from a commercial or a business standpoint. You have X company and they are running cameras in their store, and they are not only mapping where people, transverse in their store to understand product placement, but where people are lingering for more than 3 or 4 seconds so that that can inform them. They might also want to know the demographic of their customers. So they might try to figure out, okay, how many men do we have coming in? How many women do we have coming in? How many children do we have coming in? How many African American, Hispanic, that sort of thing. And I think when you go down that road, I think that's where the models, tend to get biased, and that's a much harder, like I said, that's more of the facial characterization than it is the recognition piece.
So Greg, that makes you even more nervous, right?
Yes, definitely does. I mean, it's just, it could come down to another way to discriminate. I try to relate this over to associations. I mean, if they were using facial recognition in order to do the pool hours and keep kids out at certain hours because it's adult-only hours for the pool, which is a dangerous thing, I could see ways where this could be thought as a great tool, but misused by a board and get them into trouble with discrimination.
Dawn, obviously you seem nervous about it since we started right away, right?
Yeah, I'm more about the exclusions, right? We talk about cyber liability all the time, but we are seeing court cases in connection with biometric data. And as you pointed out, discrimination, privacy, and then of course, the law. And not all states have laws. Only 3 states actually have laws pertaining to biometric data, and about 20 states have privacy laws. So the insurance companies have a battle because they may have exclusions pertaining to laws that you violate, but if there's no law yet, so we're seeing some cases get dismissed and some insurance companies having to pay out very large, even though they're excluding data breach and privacy and or information, et cetera.
All right, let's go to the lawyers here, and I'm going to hit a couple topics here, and I'll start with Dave. Dave, the cops, they want to see it. Maybe there was a burglary in the building and they want access to it, and then heaven forbid they accuse the wrong person and the association gets themselves in trouble, or maybe they don't want to tell you why they want it, right? What's the rule of thumb going to be here as far as like handing? I guess this would almost be the same with video, or maybe the police. Let me go this direction, Dave. The police say, hey, if you get an alert on this person, we want to know. What's your commentary on that, Dave? Any concerns?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know what I think that I don't know. I frankly don't know. I mean, clearly, I guess if you get some kind of search warrant or judicial subpoena, I guess you're kind of stuck. But like, if the police come and ask for a copy of your clubhouse camera because it caught an accident like out on the main road, can you voluntarily, like, I don't know that there's a problem with voluntarily providing information or facial recognition data that you might have at your front gate to see if a person was there at the time to verify an alibi. I mean, I'm just thinking about, Law and Order shows I could watch and see what comes up in these things. Like, detective comes up and he's like, hey, did this person come into your front gate at 9:10, and you have facial recognition, you have no idea other than just facial recognition, you say, I don't know, here it is. I mean, I don't know what the liability with that. I don't know if you have to comply. I'd really have to think about it, frankly. There may be issues also on the stuff you sign with the company. The owners may have to opt into using it. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy sort of like things that you have to think about. I'd really have to think about it, frankly.
All right, before I go to Sean on this, I want to expand on it. John, the technology already exists, even though it's kind of movie-like, where theoretically the police could ask to tap into it, right? And say, hey, these are the 10 most wanted, right? I'm exaggerating here. We want to use everyone's facial recognition systems to catch people, right? And we want to have access to it. And here in Atlantic City, the police actually have access to our cameras outside our building on the perimeter. And they do that up and down the boardwalk here. And most of the buildings here agree to that. It's all outside though. It's not inside. That is also, I mean, we're already there with the technology, John, or pretty close to it, before I go to Sean on what he thinks about the legal aspects of it is.
Oh, we're there, right? A murder happened 2 doors down for me last month, and I live in a pretty nice neighborhood, right? And you'll see very common people, the officers they're going to go look for video, 100%. They're going to look for good quality video. They want good quality video. So if you're going to invest in good quality video. There are programs where they will give you $250, $350, you know, to install the camera and allow them access to that. I don't see them asking for your facial recognition software capabilities. I think they would have their own, right? What they might do is exactly as you said. Hey, we have to be on the lookout for this guy. We're trying to find him. Hey, if you have facial recognition software running in your you know, your apartment building, can you just like let us know when he comes back? Like, can you just like set him up as a be on the lookout for, and if he comes back, just let us know. For me, that's an incredibly valuable tool because 90% of my time looking for criminals was trying to track them down. There was a case where I knew somebody was at the hotel and I had to go old school. I had to go to the front desk and tell them, hey, can you lock this person out of their door so that they have to come down to the lobby to get a new key? They did that. We saw them. I went back up and the guy was like, did you lock me out of my hotel room? I was like, yeah. So it's just different techniques, but yeah, it's here.
Let me go and Sean, here's a scenario I see happening, right? You're on a board. You go to the board meeting and I want to have this technology because we don't want criminals in our building. So I want the police to be notified. If there's someone who's been accused of a serious crime and the police have the ability to use our technology to find that person, that's going to benefit our association because we don't want a murderer. We don't want a rapist. We don't want someone who's accused of burglary on the loose. We want to give them that information. We want to allow them to have access to it. What do you think about that, Sean? Because that's definitely, it could be very much possible.
I mean, I think that it's going to need to be reflective of what the community wants. I mean, you know, the association is going to need to develop a policy for how it implements and uses this technology, and it's going to have to be transparent so that the community members know what it's doing and what it's not. It you know, it has to have a consent element to it where they can opt out. Like, I don't want to get into the gate by you using my face. I just want to use my key fob old school, and I'm just opting out. And that policy is also going to contain, what are we going to do if someone asks us to voluntarily give the information? Is that something we're going to do, or are we going to require a subpoena or search warrant? And I think that's implementing a best practice on that is going to be reflective of what the community, how far the community wants to let it go. And that get back to that scenario that you asked about, it really shouldn't be obviously the board's got to make a decision, but they need to make an informed decision based on what the community wants it to be.
I'm torn here. You take my building, right? If they have the technology where I don't want them to catch a guy because he has a parking ticket, but there's a guy that's a serial killer and he's living here at the building, and the technology can give them a heads up on it. Sure, I would love it. So I guess I'm guilty also of not being sure what I really want and don't want. John, there's a commercial use aspect to this too. I mean, people will pay associations for this information. I don't know if it's accurate. It's what I found in my research. It's valuable. Have you seen that at all yet, or?
I haven't seen it, but absolutely. The digital data that you create every single day is extremely valuable to everybody, not just businesses, but, I know that when I was working for the government, we were told on a regular basis, hey, foreign operatives in nation states are very interested in your digital data. and will probably buy for it. They want to know where you're going. They want to know your pattern of life, so to speak, right? And I think that the commercial industry has been way ahead of this for many years, right? Because they're using data to drive their business decisions, and there's so much more data out there than there used to be. I can recall lots of instances where some of this actually had been leaked, and information was out there as far as where people go on a daily basis.
That facial recognition though, are you talking just about like credit card numbers? Like how do you sell someone's face? Can you do that? Like can a company maps the face for the front entry security, and then you can actually sell that to and then who would buy it? What usefulness is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Let me go back real quick because you guys were talking a little bit about databases and integrity of databases, making sure that they stayed out of the hands of malactors. What I've seen is that a lot of companies, because they're concerned about the privacy implications, right? Because they don't want to get sued, just like you guys don't want to get sued. They don't want their company to go down in flames because they had a breach. A lot of times, masking of the individual, their personal identifiable information, PII, is built into their business plan. So they will not say, Sean, that here is what Sean's digital face print looks like, right? They'll assign him a number, right? It'll be a number. It'll be anonymized, right? And so a lot of companies are doing that. I don't want to say to get around the privacy implications, but to make sure that if their database leaked out, they wouldn't have your name, your social security number, all of that stuff, and your face print. They would have XYZ 1, 2, 3, and here's the face print for that person, right? It's only when you start mating, right, your enrollment in the name with that information does it get do those implications come in fact. But where this is important is it's not just the face, but it's your phone, it's any sort of tracker that you have through GPS. It all talks to one another, right? So yeah, you have an iPhone, you have an Android, yeah, your digital face print is on there, but it's also there for your banking and all of the information in your phone or your computer. Like it's sending that data out to people who want to buy it, right? And it's your geolocation data, it's your spending habits, you name it, it's sending it out.
Dave, I'm sure this is probably already happening in places. Basically, if you have the facial recognition, it can also see what clothes you're wearing. And my building here was Memorial Day weekend, right? We're off the boardwalk here. Thousands of people came in and out of this building. So if you had facial recognition, the AI could read what kind of clothes you have. It could read what kind of jewelry you're wearing. It could also tell what kind of car you drove up in the garage here. It's all there. The technology already exists. That's so valuable to people who want to market to people. If you could immediately know what Dave Byrne wears, what jewelry he wears, what times does he come back and forth, what kind of car does he drive, how old is his car? You could just take this further and further. Maybe the tires are worn down. It'll get to the point, and Dave needs new tires down the road. Maybe your car sounds terrible, and an auto repair place will contact you. The technology, am I wrong, John? The technology is already there right now to do all those things to a certain extent. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not too far off, John.
No, you're not off. You're not off at all. You're 100%.
So that's
right.
where the commercial use value will be. And I could see associations down the road getting in on the game and making a considerable amount of money in that regard. Sean, legalities of that.
I got to think that that's something that the community would not want. And I think that that's something you really have to take the temperature of the folks that live there, that are stakeholders in the community, and make that part of the policy. Are we going, yes, we'd like to have this money that somebody's willing to pay for all the data on our members and all the, people that live in the community. But I mean, do we want to do that? And I think most people are going to say that's a hard no. So yeah, I think that's got to be a decision that the board needs to do what the community would prefer in that regard. And I think most of the time communities are not going to want to do that.
I was so gung ho for this technology. Like I still think I am gung ho. If they wanted to use this technology in my building, I think I would be fine with it. I would love not to have a fob or anything, but obviously with some of the, I don't want them selling my information, no. But I'm almost reaching at the point now where they're going to be picking up that information from me anyway when I'm walking down the street or anything. So what's the difference going to be? Vendors, Dawn, I don't want to gloss over this. Associations can get in trouble also if their vendors collect the information and they have a data break, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of our insurance programs aren't quite up there on speed of that. So again, discrimination of the vendors and would the insurance apply or not? Because a lot of our exclusions right now are pertaining to discrimination to our own or third parties. But when we have data breach and it's of a third party, how do you even control that? The notification process, it could be severely delayed. So it's so important that we do background checks on our vendors and know what their continuity process is in the event of a breach, or where does their information go, how long is it retained, et cetera.
All right, so John, I think we dove deep. I'm going to go to the panel, see if they have any questions for you. I want to leave you time at the end here. Is there any technology aspects of this? I think we've explored everything from where it is currently and where it could go in the future. And what's scary, it's already there for the future. It's just not being that widely used in that aspect, or some of the aspects we brought up. Is there any technical aspects we haven't brought up today as far as how this technology can be used? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we covered a lot. I just want to, I don't want to I don't want to bury the lead here, right? Like facial recognition is just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, there are algorithms out there, and there are companies that are selling a suite, right? A suite of algorithms, and facial recognition is one, right? License plate reader is the other one, right? Like, and I know, you know, Flock has been quite controversial and has been installed in a lot of communities throughout the United States, right? But anything from a person walking down the street with a gun exposed, like I said before, somebody starting a fire. So I think that, you know, if you go out and you start looking at different vendors, I think the narrative is going to slowly start to change from, oh, we have this facial recognition technology to, hey, we have this suite of AI algorithms that we can run off of your cameras, and like, what works best for you? Do you want a license plate reader on this camera? And do you want facial on that one? And do you want that on that? And so you can actually have this ecosystem of really cool things that will give you all of the information that you ever might want to need. I know that's scaring a lot of people.
Actually, I just saw dollar signs for Greg and Dawn for some reason. This is all like stuff people are, they're going to come up with new insurance policies. You're going to have to buy more and more insurance for all this stuff. It's true, Dawn. Don't you think so? I mean, seriously, this is all going to come down to insurance for the most part.
You know, yes, but also it's important that we prevent the risk. Insurance is there to pay and to transfer financial risk, right? But we have a lot of other ways to transfer risk. And the most important thing is knowing what the risk is and then how to mitigate it, maybe remove our situation, prevent it, et cetera. So Greg and I don't want to hear about it afterwards, because that's usually when the claim is occurring. And these policies are so inexpensive, everyone. $500, $1,000. We're not talking about breaking the bank here. And Sean and Dave are wonderful attorneys, but I'm sure that their retainer and their hourly services are a lot more than the premium you would pay in order to have insurance coverage for these type of claims scenarios.
Unless you buy them lunch, then they'll work for free. They will work for food.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, if you take them out to the movies, if you take Dave to the Hall of Fame for baseball, he'll do that. He'll take that in lieu of billable hours, and you can ask him questions.
I would. And tickets to Devil Wears Prada too. I want to see.
There you go. See? There you go. All right. So let me go through the panel really, really quick. Sean, any technical questions for John?
John, what are your thoughts basically on data security and destruction policies? I mean, what makes the most sense? What's a good, industry standard for that?
I've seen anything. I think it depends on the industry, right? I've seen records of notice that retain information for 30 days, right? I've seen things that retain it for 180 days, depending on state, federal regulations. So I think, and you mentioned it earlier, building out policy, that's going to be super important. It was always something that I looked at when introducing new technology. I think people need to take a look at it and say, from a retention standpoint, right? You guys should already be retaining video for a certain period of time so that if there is a breach, right, you've limited your exposure there to only 30 days. And so that should be considered. But I've seen it, like I said, I've seen anywhere between 180 days, depending on um, like the application for guidelines, and then other just internal ones of 30 days or so.
You know, Don, you were at the last live stream we did with Tom. I think he said 30 days was they kind of felt like an industry standard or something. Don't hold me to it. Greg, any quick question? Because I want to leave John time to wrap up here.
I just want to add one comment on most associations have a property manager, and we're talking about our cyber insurance, and Don mentioned how inexpensive it is and everything. And a lot of times we get back with the vendors that the property manager carries the cyber insurance coverage. And that doesn't count. The information we're talking about that could be stolen is the association's property. So the association needs to carry their own cyber insurance policy to protect them. My quick question for John, though, was, and to the attorneys, I don't feel like my face is like my social security number. We're outside all the time. We're walking around, we're in plain sight, we're being videoed. How easy is this going to be for people to copy these details of my face, which at least if we keep it separate in a database of social security numbers and dates of birth and names is good, but it's out there as soon as I walk out my door.
No time to go to the lawyers. John, could you just tell Greg it's super easy and there's nothing you can do about it? That's where we're at.
I mean, I don't want to give him a heart attack with going to YouTube and looking at some of these hackers who not only have cloned people's faces, but have cloned their audio. To the point where their mother doesn't even recognize them. With a little bit of skill and some technology, you can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, that's
so,
scary.
I mean, you got a point.
Dave, let me go to Dawn. Dawn, any quick question?
No.
Okay. Dave, any quick question?
Aside from whether John has an alibi for this murder that took place 2 doors down, no.
Okay. All right. I want to ask Dave a really quick question. Quick answer, Dave. I'm telling you right now, like I'm curious what you would think. I'll tell you, for my building, I would still go with this technology with certain limitations. I'd be all for it. Dave Byrne, what do you think? Because I know you have strong feelings on these things, and you got to answer in 30 seconds or just pass on it.
I'd be willing to roll with the technology and see how it can make life easier.
Wow. Okay. All right, John, you got 2 minutes here. What should boards be thinking about? They like this technology. It has a lot of benefits. I know we've scared everybody. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But boy, what are the positives? What should they be asking?
Here it is. Open up your aperture. Don't just think about facial recognition. You guys mentioned a lot about liability. I get it. But I think you can actually have some insurance protection if you have an algorithm running on a pool that will detect somebody falling into a pool, right? I think you can have some liability protection for getting notified if you have an exclusion area that you know is dangerous in your property, you don't want people going into, and you get alerted when people are in there. So I think it's both ways, right? Here's the thing. If you are looking at investing this, as always, when you're looking at technology, be careful of the technology push versus pull. If somebody comes to you and says, I have this great piece of technology, be very wary, right? That's what we call technology being pushed onto you. You want to pull tech to you, right? And that means you want to figure out your application. What do you want to do with it, right? Spend some time, talk to some people, build up requirements. And then when you do your research and you go out and you start looking at vendors, you have a list to tell them and say, hey, this is what I want done. Or you don't tell them, you just say, hey, like, what can you do? And you're like, nope, 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 yes, right? That kind of protects you against going down this rabbit hole of the latest and greatest technology. I already told you that the algorithm is the most important. So if you get into negotiations with a company who has a nice software, you really need to understand where their core algorithm comes from and who developed it. And then I think it was Sean that mentioned this, policy development. You have to have policy. Very often we will bring a new technology to the game, and then we'll be like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. We need to write some policy around it. Nope. I think a reasonable approach to be is, hey, we're looking at this. Let's start to build some policy around it right now as we're going into and as we're looking at technology, because that can help us inform that policy. So establish your requirements, take a look at your the algorithms, and then not only that, I said the cameras are also important, how detailed they can get. So if you're looking at infrastructure investments, buying new cameras, you're going to want to make sure that those algorithms can support that to set you up for success.
John, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I'm equally optimistic and excited and scared at the same time. So that's how I feel right now. But thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for panel for being here. And I hope to see everybody soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Excellent. Bye.